The main reason we chose Africa for Far Cry 2 was the original Far Cry took players to an exotic, foreign, beautiful environment that they never thought they would ever see in a video game. And for us, it was important in the real sequel to Far Cry to recapture that. And the thing is, if we went back to another tropical jungle island, well, you've been there before. You've been there in Far Cry, you've been there in Crysis, you've been there and maybe in console versions of Far Cry, you've been there in Just Cause and Boiling Point, you've been there, many, many times. You go there when you go watch Lost every night on TV, right? So for us, it was like, how do we capture that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm going somewhere that I never thought I would go in a video game. And that was core to the experience of Far Cry, and that's why we decided Africa was the place to go. So the main story for Far Cry 2 is that you've been sent to this Central African state to hunt down and kill the Jackal, who is an arms dealer who's selling guns to both sides in this conflict. There are two factions, the APR and the UFLL, who are sort of perpetuating a conflict in this sort of failed African state. And you need to end up working for these two factions, sort of playing both sides against the middle to find out what they know about the Jackal and ultimately track him down and complete your mission. Of course, in so doing, you're going to earn yourself a reputation, and you're also, because you're sick with malaria, you're going to need to treat your malaria symptoms. And the real story of the game, if you want, isn't just the story of trying to hunt down this arms dealer and kill him, but it's also dealing with the sort of juxtaposition of your reputation as sort of a brutal killer versus your need to get malaria medicine from the civilians. And as you become too infamous and your reputation grows too big for you, they're going to cut off your access to medicine, and you're going to have to deal with that problem as well.
These factions are pretty typical in the sense they are run by warlords that are pretty interesting characters, and they have the structure that you have in organizations like these where you're going to have to meet with their lieutenants and their captains and have access and have interactions with those guys, which will bring you the story. What's cool about these guys will give you missions, and that way they'll give you information on that arms dealer, and that way you can get to your target. But you can choose those missions in the order that you want, so everyone will have a different experience. So that's one of the key elements. Freedom and liberty. The player will have a lot of this into the game, which is cool.
You don't play a specific character. There are 12 buddies in the game, and 9 of those buddies are male and 3 are female. And the very first action you do in the game is to choose your avatar, the character who becomes you and who you play in the game. You can only choose your character from the 9 male buddies. We don't allow you to play one of the female buddies for different technical reasons. And that character becomes you. The other 11 buddies go on to populate the story, and you can find them and rescue them in the game, and then they'll start to hang out with you. They'll offer you alternate ways to do missions. They have quests and storylines of their own and character development of their own, and also they'll be around to rescue you if you get into any kind of trouble.
We're talking close to a pretty much extreme freedom in the sense that you choose the missions in the order that you want. You choose your character at the beginning of the game. It's an open world game. It's 50 square kilometers. Basically, if you need to kill someone that it's in a specific location, you can equip yourself with different types of weapons. If you want to have a stealthier approach or just go Rambo style and kill everything in sight, you can do that. It's your decision. An environment in an open world, well, basically you have options of coming in 360 degrees. You have vehicles. We give a lot of tools for the gamer to use to create basically his own little movie, his way of playing. So freedom is just pretty much one of the key things in our game.
We have over 30 different weapons in the game, supported by quite a lot of different equipment, like a map and a compass and a cell phone, obviously, for getting mission updates, first aid supplies, all that kind of stuff, a wrench for fixing vehicles, all of that. There's, I forget the number now, it's either 7 or 9 different vehicles in the game, including boats and barges and trucks and jeeps and different kinds of cars, vehicles with mounted weapons on them, dune buggies, hang gliders, all of that. The most important thing, though, is that you get paid for doing your missions for the factions. You get paid in conflict diamonds. You can also find diamonds by exploring in the world. There's other sources that you can get them from, and you use those diamonds at the weapons vendors to sort of unlock new weapons and new equipment and to upgrade your weapons, because all of the weapons have a reliability and they wear down over the course of play, and they'll eventually break if you use them for too long. So you're constantly salvaging weapons from the battlefield, so on and so forth. And what you're going to want to do is unlock weapons, which gives you, access to a supply of fresh, brand new weapons that aren't going to jam all of the time. So that's really the sort of main thrust of the sort of weapons and equipment in the game.
Over 30 weapons in the game. So the character, the player you're playing, has one machete at all times, and then 3 other weapons he can carry: a primary, secondary, and special weapon. Primary weapons are mostly handguns. You have Desert Eagles, MAC-10, Uzis. Those are the secondary weapons. Primary weapons, you have AK-47s, you have Dragunovs, sniper rifles, all types of rifles or assault rifles are in there. Automatic shotguns, stuff like that. Special weapons, you have guided rocket launchers, RPGs, flamethrower, name it. You got over 30 of those in the game. But you have places in the world where you can store those weapons and have a second kit available or mix and match those, which basically gives you a lot of freedom on how you want to attack a location. So you equip yourself the way you want, and then you can attack.
All of our weapons are heavily modeled on real weapons. For different licensing reasons, it's always a problem to just plagiarize someone else's work. But I mean, the AK-47, the FNFAL, the M16, the G3, the MP5, Carl Gustav, RPG-7, all of these weapons are manufactured all around the world under different licenses, and so we just take those weapons. They're all real weapons. There are no plasma rifles. There's no fake guns that you've never heard of. Everything is a real knockoff, if you want, of a real gun.
Any vehicle like the glider gets dirtier over time. Maybe in the demo you saw a brand new one that was in perfect condition. The glider is Far Cry, and we're making Far Cry, and the glider is extremely it's an iconic image of what Far Cry was and what Far Cry is. And having an open world and having the chance to use a glider and to just go really rapidly from location to location, I'm pretty sure you're going to change opinion on the glider once you use it. It's really, really cool. Honestly, at the beginning, we weren't too sure about it until we put it in and played around with it. And you have to control it. It's a real, the original Far Cry, I'll be honest, I didn't like the glider. I thought it was really cool as a vehicle, because it's a vehicle, but I didn't like the fact that I was stuck on the spline and couldn't do anything with it. Now, you can go where the fuck you want with it, so that's pretty cool. And it's a flying vehicle in a huge open world. It's not, with no loading, streaming all the time. It's just really cool. Far Cry 2's engine is a brand new engine that we built from the ground up. When we started this game about a little bit more than 3 years ago, we looked at different engines we could use. We knew the game we wanted to build, and we quickly saw that there was no engine available for us to be able to build the game we wanted. So what we decided to do, and we were lucky enough that Ubisoft decided to back us up on this decision, which is to give us money and the ability to hire engineers. There are 55 engineers working on this game, and that way we were able to, to build our own engine, which is called Dunia, and that way we can have a 50 square kilometer world with, no loading. Once you start, you have one loading screen, and that's at the beginning of the game. Everything you stream live, and basically quality of graphics is amazing. And we could, for us, it was only possible for us to do this only using a new engine, and that's why we built it from the ground up. We actually studied Unreal 3 at the beginning. It was part of the pack that we studied. Unreal 3 has a lot of things that are pretty interesting. They have a pretty smooth pipeline. A lot of people are used to the Unreal kind of architecture, but our Unreal 3, we couldn't have built the game that you guys saw today. It was just not feasible, so that's why we built a brand new engine for it. Fire in most games is just a wow effect. It's just something you see, explosions, and that's it. Fire for us, we wanted to take it to the next step. Africa just gives a great environment for that. The savanna with tall, yellow, dry grass. I mean, we had to have the ability to have fire, but fire needs to be more than that. You need to have propagation of fire. And basically, I'll just give you an element of gameplay you could do. You can have a Molotov cocktail. Just throw one surrounding a camp in tall, high, dry grass. Watch the direction, watching the trees that are moving to the wind. You know, that way you can see the direction of the wind, or you can watch on your binocular that has a wind indicator. And that way you can plan your attack by putting a fire in one direction, knowing that the wind will push the propagation, alerting the AI where they'll go investigating or just creating chaos, and you can attack from the other side and gun them, and which is going to be really, really interesting. As well, propagation of fire happens in the way that you can burn yourself too. You have like propane tanks that are all around that have different behaviors. You can use them. Some are directional, some are completely random, and fire will propagate, and you can create a lot of chaos using fire, which is one of the cool things I like using in the game when I play every day. Since we decided to have a realistic game, we took the odd away for most of the time. We wanted to make sure that nothing in the game would take the player out of the immersion. So that's why it's why we built this new engine. It's to be able to build an environment that is realistic. You see the trees are moving and reacting to the wind because we built what we call our dynamic weather system. The clouds are moving. They're entirely dynamic, and they're moving according to the winds. The wind changes like it changes in the real world. It's not always in the same direction. The forces of the wind also change. We have some storms in the game. We have rain in the game. We have a 24-day night cycle, which changes everything. Because you can attack at night if you want to, and you have one of the ability is to change the time, to fast forward time. You go to safe houses, you change the time, and then you can attack. So it gives a lot of freedom, a lot of diversity. The vegetation is dynamic, reacts to the wind. It breaks, like a branch off a tree. You can shoot at it, and it will break off. And people tend to forget that since we have the jungle and woodlands environment, when a gunfight happens in a dense environment like that, and you have branches breaking all over, it just adds a layer of stress and immersion that is just great. It's really cool when you're in combat and guys are shooting from all over, and you get branches breaking off close and bullets are flying by. It's just really immersive. The way we designed the system that is linked to destructibility of the vegetation and to the fire propagation is that if you leave the sectors, like the 1 kilometer sector, if you leave it, everything comes back. But the vegetation regrows at a faster rate. So that's how we decided to do it. So, but if you don't leave the sector, it's going to stay like that. One of the cool things is that it's an open world, and for us, it's impossible to, kind of like know what the player will do. Most shooters are linear. They know you have to go through a certain corridor, and they can script with triggers behaviors of their AI. We can't do this because we don't know where the hell you guys are going to go. So we had to build the AI from the ground up, having really a systemic approach. So basically what we did is that we give them tons of behaviors, combat behaviors, alert mode behaviors, and just standing there behaviors of being in the world, doing their shit, basically. They're fixing cars, exercising, having a smoke, going for a piss, stuff like that. They have living behaviors, combat behaviors, and they just maneuver all around you, and they'll work together to get to you when combat starts. They're doing patrols, they're doing sniper, they have their sniper behaviors as well. So, and what they have, which is pretty cool, is that they have counter abilities to the way you will play. So if you decide to be some type of a coward and snipe from a distance all the time, then they'll come and take you. If they spot you, they'll take a vehicle and they'll just come to get you. They'll have snipers sniping from afar and maneuvering on you. So, and we have car patrols, boat patrols. If they see you pass by, you have a great chance of having a chase, which are pretty cool, being rammed up, using the machine guns and stuff like that. So our AI is extremely robust. I think it's something there's no game that's done that before. Everything's scripted in other games, and ours, everything's systemic. I cannot talk a lot about multiplayer because it's something we want to communicate more at the end of the summer. What I can say today, though, is that multiplayer is 16 players. We're going to have classical modes. We're not going to reinvent the wheel on that front. But it's going to be, the same setting. The maps, you got to have jungle maps, savanna maps, using vehicles. Basically, multiplayer will use all the cool single-player elements integrated in there. Propagation of fire, when when you're fighting and there's a guy with a flamethrower, fuck, man, I get scared like crazy. It's going to be kick-ass. One of the cool things that we worked really hard is having a map editor. The map editor is specific to PC, and we made a specific one for console. So that way, you can create a map, share it with your friends. And what's good about it is that we're putting a lot of effort to support the community. That's important. When you have a map editor, you need to rate the maps to make sure that people don't end up playing in an empty map with nothing interested. So we'll have community managers making sure that the rating system is used properly and that the good map makers are supported by that community. So there's incentives to be a good map maker. The tools are so powerful that we just have a blast creating maps, and the map editor has been influenced a lot by the tools created by the team and the level designers that use actually creating the game.
So obviously on PC there's going to be a big range of configurations that it will run on. We haven't released any official system spec yet or min spec. However, I mean, we're running on, right now we've got running at super high resolution on a quad core with a dual SLI in there. It's a very high-end PC, but we also plan to, the same game runs on consoles, and so we plan to support a really, really excellent looking mid to low-end configuration, which will be, you'll be able to play on the PC you already have, especially if you already played Crysis. You're already set up to play this game.